Lost in the Abyss, 7 Real Ghost Ships. To this day, other vessels encounter ghost ships drifting without a crew. It is not always possible to understand why they were left without people and where the crew disappeared to. Sometimes ships without a single crew member sail the seas on their own for years. They strike fear into the hearts of all who encounter them. As a rule, there are no witnesses to the fateful events themselves. Such mysteries are often explained by the machinations of pirates, epidemics of deadly diseases, or mass insanity. It is not surprising that abandoned ships become shrouded in mysticism and legends over time. And although many of them are actually fiction, there are examples of real ghost ships. A ship that disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle has been found off the coast of the Dominican Republic. The Bermuda Triangle is truly one of the most mysterious areas on our planet. For many years, it has attracted the attention of researchers, scientists, and curious people, causing them to wonder about its mysterious nature. The news about the discovery of a ship that disappeared several years ago in the Bermuda Triangle only adds to the mystery of this place. The ship, found off the coast of the Dominican Republic, was in poor condition, rusty, and seemingly very old. However, the most surprising thing is that the entire crew was found on board. The details of this event are still unknown, as sources of information do not provide any further details about the ship and its disappearance. Cases where a ship that disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle suddenly reappears decades or even centuries later are not unique. Earlier, there were reports of the return of the American steamship SS Cotopaxi, which disappeared in 1925 and was found without a crew in the Caribbean Sea. This ship left the port of Charleston and was headed for Havana, Cuba, but never reached its destination. No traces of the shipwreck or the bodies of the crew were found. Such mysterious stories only fuel interest in the Bermuda Triangle. Many people wonder what happens to the ships and people that disappear in this area. There are various theories attempting to explain these mysteries, ranging from the presence of strong magnetic fields and geomagnetic anomalies to assumptions about the existence of unknown natural phenomena or even extraterrestrial forces. However, despite all the mysteries and mystical reputation of the Bermuda Triangle, it is important to remember that most of the disappearances of ships and planes in this area can be explained by natural causes, such as bad weather, human error, or technical problems. Nevertheless, these mysterious stories continue to attract the attention of people from all over the world, and the Bermuda Triangle remains one of the most amazing and unexplored areas of our planet. The sailing ship Maria Celeste is the most famous abandoned ship. It set sail on November 5, 1872, from New York to Italy. It was a commercial voyage, and the ship was carrying a large cargo of alcohol. The new captain, Benjamin Briggs, took his wife and young daughter with him on the voyage. The crew consisted of 7 people. Previously, the brigantine had been called the Amazon. It is noteworthy that it had already been in trouble before. For example, it collided with a brig and sank it. A month after setting sail, the Maria Celeste was discovered by another ship. The vessel was slightly flooded, but still afloat. There was not a single person on board. Most of the items remained untouched. Even the jewelry, box, and bundles of cash in the captain's cabin had been left behind. The food and cargo were intact, as was the ship's log. The last entry indicated the coordinates that the ship had passed through very recently. However, the lifeboat was missing. The brigantine was taken to Gibraltar, where a thorough investigation was conducted. However, the results did not lead the experts to a unanimous conclusion. Everything pointed to the crew abandoning the ship on their own. But what prompted them to do so remains a mystery. Perhaps the barrels carrying the cargo were leaking, and the crew feared an explosion from the volatile vapors. There is a theory that this incident was staged for the sake of insurance money, due to the lack of reliable evidence. The mystery of Maria Celeste continues to attract researchers to this day. The abandoned schooner Carol A. Deering. The story of the American schooner Carol A. Deering is often referred to as one of the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. Although in reality, it was discovered in North Carolina, quite far from the mystical place. It was a brand new cargo ship, and in 1920 it set sail from Norfolk to Rio de Janeiro for the first time. Loaded with coal, there were 9 people in the crew. After a few months, the ship was lost on its way back home. It was found washed up on the shore with its sails raised. None of the crew members were on board, but the schooner itself had been badly battered by the storm. It was clear that the crew had abandoned the ship in a hurry. The ship's log, equipment, and the sailors' personal belongings were missing. In addition, the anchors and boats were missing. In the same year, several more ships disappeared while following a similar route. Due to frequent storms, sailors nicknamed this area of the Atlantic Ocean the Boiling Cauldron. Some believe that bloodthirsty pirates or smugglers transporting illegal alcohol were responsible for the disappearances. Theories of mutinies were also proposed. However, none of these theories were supported by substantial evidence. Official investigations also yielded no results. The Octavius is a legendary British ghost ship that, according to legend, was found in 1775 by the whaling ship Herald, drifting off the coast of Greenland. According to legend, the crew of 28 froze to death while attempting to navigate the Northwest Passage from Asia, trapped in the ice for 13 years. History: in 1761, the Octavius left England bound for Asia. Legend: in 1775, the ship was found frozen in the ice. The captain was found frozen at his table in his cabin, and the crew in the forecastle. Ship's log: the last entry in the log was dated 1762, indicating that the ship attempted to pass through the Northwest Passage, which was only successfully navigated in 1906. Fate: the ship is said to have made the journey across the Arctic, drifting in the ice. The Octavius is considered one of the most famous ghost ships, along with the Flying Dutchman and the Maria Celeste. The Octavius is considered one of the most famous ghost ships, along with the Flying Dutchman and the Mary Celeste. The Octavius is considered a classic example of ghost ship legends, similar in popularity to the Mary Celeste. There is no reliable historical evidence of the existence of this ship, and this story is probably folklore. The sailing ship Seabird also became one of the most popular ghost ships. It was discovered, abandoned in the summer of 1850, off the coast of Rhode Island. The ship itself was used for commercial transport. It left the port of Honduras with a cargo of timber and coffee. But in the end, it did not reach its destination and ran aground. As it turned out, by that time there was not a single person on board. Only a ship's dog was found in the cabin, and even he was trembling with fear. It seemed as if the crew had just left the Seabird. All their belongings were untouched. There was a cold kettle with coffee on the stove, etc. The ship's log was also there. The last line in it indicated that the sailors had passed Brennan Reef. No one knows what happened after that. Just the day before, the crew had been seen from another ship, and there had been no sign of trouble. The pirate theory was immediately dismissed, as the expensive cargo was intact and undamaged. There were no storms that day either. The weather was excellent. In addition, there were no signs of a struggle or disorder. The authorities conducted a thorough investigation, but they were unable to solve the mystery. The secret of the Seabird and its crew, who disappeared without a trace, remains unsolved to this day. Lost in the ice, the Bachimo. The German steamship Bachimo had been operating in the Baltic Sea since 1914. A few years later, it was bought by Canadians and refitted for Arctic transport. Its cargo consisted of furs. In 1931, Captain Cornwell and his crew of 36 sailors sailed the ship out of Vancouver. Soon, the ship was frozen in ice and stuck at Cape Barrow. For several months, the crew tried to free it from its captivity, but to no avail. In addition, several dangerous holes appeared in the hull of the Bachimo. The captain decided to begin evacuating the crew. Seaplanes called from shore took all the people and cargo away, and the steamer remained stranded. In the middle of the ocean, Cornwell was sure that the ship would sink when summer came, but the Bachimo proved to be resilient. It continued to drift calmly among the ice. The abandoned ship was seen by Eskimos and polar explorers, and in 1933, hunters spent 10 nights in its holds, waiting out a snowstorm. A few years later, An American mechanic wanted to repair the steamer's engine, but his plan failed. The owner company even announced a reward for capturing the ghost, but all attempts to catch it failed. The last time Bachimo was seen was frozen in ice in 1969. Perhaps he is still continuing his endless voyage in northern waters. The uncontrollable Kirbenhavn. The Danish five-masted Kirbenhavn, built in 1921, was one of the largest sailing ships of its time. It was considered very reliable. The ship was equipped with the latest equipment and successfully completed several round-the-world voyages, transporting people and cargo. At the end of 1928, the Kirbenhavn set sail on another voyage from Argentina to Australia. There were 75 people on board, including the crew. But after a week, contact with the ship was lost. It was declared missing. Several other ships were sent to search for it, but they were unable to find it or determine the cause of its disappearance. Over the next 2 years, sailors saw a very similar sailing ship in different parts of the Pacific Ocean. There were also some unusual discoveries that were supposedly linked to the ghost. 6 years later, a bottle containing the diary of one of the sailors was found on Bouvet Island. It said that the ship had hit an iceberg and the crew had escaped in lifeboats. A year later, several skeletons dressed in Danish uniforms were found in the South African desert. Perhaps these were part of the crew who had boarded the boats and reached the shore. But in the end, they died of thirst and hunger. The last report about the Kirbenhavn dates back to 1959. The captain of the ship's captain, claimed that he had miraculously avoided colliding with a drifting sailboat, and that he had clearly been able to read its name on board.